My name's Andrew Banks. This is my 18th year as a teacher. I'm currently in a leadership role at the moment. So my current role is primary faculty leader at the Wollonga Water School. And I've been in this position. This is my third year in this position. Before that, I have taken two 5-year cycles through as a class teacher in the primary school. And so in our school, we do from classes 1 through to 5. And so I did that 2 cycles back to back. Before that, I worked at Sophie Mundi Steiner School in Melbourne. And I did 2 years with the classes 4 and 5, before relocating to Wollonga.
I see. Yeah. So you've been a mainstream teacher as well.
Yes.
Wow.
I've been a mainstream teacher, and I really love the fact that I have had mainstream experience. It's made me a better teacher in terms of the skills that I got to hone coming out of university. I worked at a wonderful school, and so I got to really hone my skills as a teacher. I also worked while I was doing my Steiner training. I was able to use my Steiner knowledge that I'd been learning at the seminar and implement it straight away, literally the next day classroom. However, the day I lit a candle in my mainstream classroom was a little bit humorous.
I can imagine.
As I lit the candle, the kids screamed and shouted and jumped up and down. So I had to put the candle out because it was too exciting. I had to get them to calm down, sit down. Now I'll relight it if you promise to sit down. And they loved it. And they
great.
forward to it every week after that.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what you find joy in teaching?
What I love in my job is the relationship building. I think that's one of the key pictures in Steiner education that works so well. And a picture of this is my class graduated last year. They finished year 12. And so at my school, I've been able to watch them for 12 years. So I taught them for the first 5 years. And then I've had the privilege of watching them through middle school and through high school. And the relationship that I formed over the first 5 years, just continued to deepen. And so to watch them graduate, one of them came up to me on the last function and said, "Andrew, I just want to say thank you." Wow. Because you've been such a big impact on my life. And this is coming from a young man that didn't have a father in his life. And he said, "Andrew, you've been a mini dad to me." And it made me cry, like having a young man at 6'3" come up and tell me that he was grateful it wasn't anyone else pushing him to do it, but it came from his own free will to actually say that to me. So this was a young man that had some troubles early on, but to know that was the impact that I'd had on him. And then his friend that was standing just next to him said, "Yeah, I agree, Andrew. I agree exactly. You've been a mini dad to me." So to have these 2 young people telling me that, it was profound. And that thing about it is a question that sits about, am I making a difference in the world? But to get feedback like that was profound. And so those relationships, that's what I've loved about my class teacher role, and also in this position right now. I love those interactions and connections with the young people.
That's great. I think a lot of people come into teaching because of this reward that nothing else can measure, really.
Yeah.
But it's not all joy. What are some of the challenges that you find?
Challenges is that there is lots of challenges, and I think that's the beautiful bit about it too. Like in those challenging moments, it feels like this is too hard and I want to quit. But it's in retrospect of those challenging moments, they're the bits you grow from. And I think that's what I've really noticed. I have grown so much as being a teacher. So it's like the tricky bits, the challenging bits are actually the growthful bits at the same time. And I don't like to admit that in those challenging moments that there's growth potential, but in retrospect, there's growth if you're willing to reflect on it. So in terms of what are the challenging bits of the career of teaching, it is it's a constant learning and a constant challenge every it's almost like you're always, because you're always learning, you never feel like you're succeeding. So it is an interesting place to sit yourself in terms of if you want to. I mean, I've been teaching for 18 years, but I still wouldn't rest into that I know what I'm doing. I know enough of what I'm doing, but I think that's also a gift in terms of not pretending that you know it all. And a wise mentor once said to me, Andrew, the day you work out exactly what you need to do is the day you need to quit. And I thought, yeah, I really hear that one. And it almost, she said to me that like a decade ago, and I see it even more now, like that thing about when people think they've got it all sorted out, it is probably time to go. Because it's that vitality too that you've got to bring.
New.
You do. You have to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about those challenges that you face and, how you handle it? Not going into the specifics, but, some of
Yeah.
the things, yeah.
Yeah, the challenge is like challenging behavior in the classroom is a really interesting one. And challenging parent interactions.
Yes.
So I'd say they're the two difficult ones. And I think the behavior has changed over time and the way that you deal with it has changed over time. And in some ways that's really positive that the way that we're meeting children, we are changing our teaching techniques, which I think we need to do. Like education is based on an industrial model of making good factory workers. I mean, Steiner himself, it was a cigarette factory. So times need to change for education, but with change, it's a challenge. And so how do we make it still meaningful and still it still needs meaningful work and it still needs to serve a purpose, but I think we need to change the purpose of what we're doing this for. Because it's not just Waldorf schools, but mainstream schools. Wellbeing is becoming the new number one.
Yes.
And Steiner talks about wellbeing 100 years ago, but it's like that wasn't really spoken about much in my teaching degree 18 years ago. It was teaching kids to read and write. That was the most important bit. And I think that social literacy is so important. And I think that is the key about producing young people that can survive in the world. So that question of how do you work with it, I think the biggest bit is, for me, is actually listening. My big lesson has been the more I listen, the more I assist. And I think early on, I just wanted to solve the problems. But when I watch, the most profound change has come from listen first. And I love this phrase of someone said to me a couple of months ago, does the person that's coming to you want to be heard, helped, or hugged? And I just think it's such a beautiful picture, because 90% of the time it's just hearing. And so having said that, I also had a parent when I was working in Melbourne that said to me, Andrew, stop listening to me and start doing something. And I was like, oh, wow. Right. You're over being listened to, you want action now. So I also recognize it's all very well to listen, but you've got to take action too. So it is a balance. However, I think that thing is the teachers that I really admire are the ones that are able to listen first, and then respond. The ones that talk lots, don't have the same, or that the action or the results or the outcomes are not, I don't believe, are as powerful. Because when you're dealing with a student and a student feels heard, then you can move forward. When you're dealing with a parent and the parent feels heard, there's a trust. And if you have a parent's trust, you also more than likely will have the child's trust at the same time. And trust comes through that relationship. And it's time. And I think that's the bit that's wonderful about Steiner education is
Yeah.
we build a relationship over 5 years. And so that's where it makes a difference because you can rest into the relationship.
And some schools, the class teachers takes them till class 8, so that's even longer. And the beauty of the Steiner system is that, you know, the whole well-being is interweaved into the whole curriculum and every single program that runs in the school.
Yep.
And I think so difference is that the community building is actually an important part of it as well. And I heard you recently talking about some programs that you have started or run. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my colleague and I ran an evening, and it was titled "Being a Waldorf Dad." So I'm also a father. I've got two beautiful young children, and my colleague also has two kids. And so it was about, we actually had 44 men respond and attend on our evening, and it was run at the school, and it was really powerful in terms of men talking to men, dads talking to dads. And it wasn't so much about how to be a Waldorf dad. It was more about dads connecting with dads and realizing, oh, you're in the same boat as me. And I had a man tell me, running a similar activity a few years ago, a dad came up to me and said, Andrew, I just talked to this other dad. We've got a different wife, we've got different kids and different jobs, and we're having the same experience. And it was profound for him. It was just like loads, bang, 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 bang. And so watching this dad's night that we held, reading the room, it was just beautiful to watch because this hum and buzz of the men just talking to one another and connecting with one another, but realizing, oh, we are so intimately connected, but it's the silos that we create. And dads, I think, have a tendency more to be a silo in that picture. And so to actually have these men connecting with one another and realizing, oh, wow, we hold more similarities than difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think men, especially if you go to any schools or any Steiner schools, you find that most of the parents there are women or mothers, and we don't see fathers too much. They only come to, you know, at fairs or certain things, they come and help. But I always feel that, you know, I'm also a Steiner parent as well. You know, the father is always the one who's left behind or not understanding what the kid is learning about, where they are at. And, you know, you have all these things that's happening in the family, you know, and if they are not being connected, then they are really the missing link, and they should be part of the whole community and growing together. And that's why I find your program so beautiful.
And that's what I love too. Like when I was a class teacher, I really focused too about engagement with the parents. And I think the way that I did my class activities, my class evenings, was to engage. It didn't matter if you're a mother or father, but that's the thing. It's not about Andrew standing at the front giving his dialogue and lecture. It was actually an engaged process. And so by having the parents involved too and actually interacting with one another, it was really powerful too. So that's what I loved about it too. And I did have men regularly coming to those nights. And did more mums come than dads? Maybe, but I wouldn't say, like, I really see in some groups it is just the mothers that come, but I feel like through the particular format that I did, I had it was palatable for both. So yeah, that was really exciting to see that engagement. And statistically, that picture of dads being involved in education, it's profound in terms of their academic well-being, academics and their well-being. Yeah, there are studies backing that up too.
Yeah. And from your years of being a teacher, mainstream or Steiner or Waldorf, how do you think, you know, what are the qualities that we need to build a successful schools now in this modern, challenging, fast-paced times, you know, and parents being so busy and always stressed and Yeah, and everybody comes from different perspective, etc. as well. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good one because I've been on lots of interview panels for employment, and it's really got me thinking about what is it that is a standout candidate. And one of them is flexibility, um, and that willingness to be flexible. There's also that thing about being a good listener is the other one that's essential. Um, and I think the one that my top three would be that flexibility, ability to listen, and then the third one is that ability to self-reflect. Um,
Yes.
and that's what I've found profound in my teaching journey, because by having 28, 30 children there every day, it's actually this beautiful mirror that you get every day,
Yes.
because it doesn't, it's how you bring yourself. And Steiner talks again and again about how you present yourself into the classroom. And I really agree with what he's got to say about the children are looking at who you are being, not what you're teaching. And it's essentially how you walk rather than how you talk. And I think that
Yes.
picture of, if we're able to self-reflect on why are we getting triggered by that particular little person? What are they doing? Why is that parent triggering us? There's a gift in that one too. And I
Yeah.
think my knockers would probably say you spend too much time self-reflecting, but I actually think that's the gift too, because if you're coming as a cleaner vessel, it's better for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And that self-reflective process that you're able to reflect on your own practice so that you can be a cleaner vessel. And we're never clean. We try to be, but the better we can, the more conscious we can, the better the outcomes are, I believe.
Yeah. That is so true. I find it myself as well. And can you imagine, it's not just the teachers, but the whole, the parent community can do similar things. What can that community be and what can those kids be in the future?
Yep.
It's really profound what you said.
And I think the other one is that relational.
Mm.
How relatable are you? Because teachers that have a relatability, and actually I'd probably sub out the listening and put in relational. It
Yeah.
would be flexible, relational, and self-reflective, because it's that relationships. Because if you can develop a good relationship with young people and parents, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Um, because it's all about that. And that picture too, when I do my school tours, I talk about this picture of safety. If kids don't feel safe, kids don't learn. And that
Yes.
comes back to that relationability. So there's no point teaching A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, unless children feel safe. And that's that whole picture of anxiety, all those things. If you can calm those things, the receptors are open and they're actually able to drink it in.
And
Yeah.
everything is really points to the world of curriculum, how well-being is interweaved into everything that
Yep.
Steiner schools does. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And my last questions would be like, you actually graduated from the seminars Advanced Diploma of Rudolf Steiner Education back in
Yep.
the days. Can you tell us a little bit about, has it been any impact or influence on your journey to teaching?
Mm, absolutely, it has. Part of it is knowing that I've had that solid time in the seminar. It's almost like that there's a breadth of knowledge behind me that I can rest myself into. And so what is covered in the seminar, it's still not enough. But having said that, 18 or 15 years on now, I still haven't got enough, and I'm still learning. Here I am. I've got my pink book. Oh no, I've just lent it to someone. The Practical Advice to Teachers. But I'm
Yeah.
still learning. And as a very wise teacher at the seminar told me 15 years ago, um, I'm still learning, and I still don't feel like I've got this Steiner teaching thing. And I thought, well, I really admire Terry and what she brought. And Terry McMillan told me that she's still learning. And I thought, yeah, wow, if you're still learning, I've got lots to go. And I resonate even more now with Terry's words of it's that learning journey. It's a constant about that. And so going back to your question about what are the things that stuck. So I love the diversity, like doing those things, like we did a play where that Norse mythology play that we did, I still remember it deeply
Wow.
and how we conveyed it. And I thought, oh, maybe we should have gone on to several class fours and performed it because it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like it really was. And that the action through doing, like I feel sorry for people that are doing Steiner training in terms of it's an online thing of 1.5 hours, but to actually get in there and do the on the ground work, and actually what does it feel like to be in this role? That's the bit that's it puts the action also has a longevity. So when I was doing class plays, I was reflecting back into, oh, so how was I working with it? So it's that on the ground picture. Um, and I think it's that thing about when I was doing it was 4 days a week, and it was like it was constant, so it's always going in. Um, and I think too about having that maturity, not being 18 to do it. I was in my early 20s when I was doing it, so there was the maturity that I was able to drink even more of it in,
Yeah.
and even more. Actually, no, I was in my late 20s when I was doing it. Um, so it made more sense, and I think it was more palatable in terms of, I mean, when you look at those 7 stages of development, of course, it makes more sense because you've actually grown a bit more and you're more mature
Yeah.
in what you are taking in.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And the beauty of the advanced diploma is that it is now being offered online.
It is,
So it is really great for anybody who's currently teaching or in the Steiner schools that,
yep,
they
yep,
can then really, as you said, take it right back into the school and try it and experiment it and come back to the tutors and ask questions and collaborate with the fellow classmates.
mm.
Yeah.
And I think that that's been the gift of COVID, like the fact that we now have an online capacity to do this.
Yeah.
And before COVID, it seemed undoable. I can't go to Melbourne and study for 12
Yes.
months and give up my job. Um,
Yes.
and I think that thing about keep the intensive bits to actually go and do the on the ground because,
Yes.
I mean, that's expensive. You've got to do accommodation, you've got to do uh,
Yeah.
all those things. However, it's on the ground and it's the human interaction too,
Yeah.
because um, what I learned by working with people too, we're in this journey together, and I still maintain contact with at least 2 of the people I went through with, and
Mm.
so that's that rich learning experience. And I currently am the Steiner Education Australia delegate, and the connections by being with other people in similar roles is so profound that it's
Yeah.
almost like the relationship building that happens in the morning tea breaks are as important as the other time. So I think that's the other thing about that's why the class intensives are great because you're
Mm.
coming together and actually connecting with other people. It's not just knowledge that you're passing on.
Yeah, it's definitely a community or
Mm.
another community that you're building.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else you'd like to add
About the course or in general,
in
every
general?
um I think it's those artistic things too, like um realizing that lovely Helen told me I couldn't sing in tune. It was so hard to hear. Um, but I'm so grateful that she was able to tell me that
Mm.
because those I went on, I've had 3 singing teachers since that moment
Wow.
um, to develop my own voice. And can I sing in tune? I think so.
Yeah.
Um, but it's that artistic capacity that's that also that artistic element of we all sang in the mornings together. And I think that's that bit about that Heart Forces picture. And so I think that's the bit with the online picture. I think that's my wariness about how do we still build these
Yeah.
heart connections through the online. And I think that's why the intensive picture is so good.
Yeah.
And and the eurythmy too. I think that's
Mm.
the other bit too. What is this eurythmy thing they keep talking about?
Yeah.
And you don't get it. And I think that as a student doing eurythmy at school, it didn't make sense. But doing it as an adult, um, yeah, it's an experience. I always giggle to myself because I can't do eurythmy without smiling. It's really hard to hold. So I think that's a key too about those practical components to the course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that lived experience, like doing the clay work, those things actually, at the time, I was like, oh, why are we doing clay? We need to be doing the real work. However, I think those artistic activities are just as important in the real work.
Actually, it's the key to the well-being and the development of the children,
Yep.
really, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for your
No
time,
worries.
Andrew.
No worries at all.